On behalf of the students of the University of Hawaii-Hilo, we welcome Quincy Troupe to our university. And as such, we send to him, on behalf of the students, our love, our aloha, and our essence, that he may find the guardians that are here amongst us, and a mele aloha that we give to him. So again, on behalf of the students, a warm welcome to Quincy Troupe.
Quincy Troupe, I ka mo'o me hei Hawaii. Kaulana oia I kāna hana I nā mele. A me ki ahi ai, maki oia I ko'oki, iki ka mai, I kona mau manao, ia ka kua pau. Ano laila, e nānea mai, e kipa mai, e ho'olohi mai, e launa kako a pau. Oia, mahalo.
Ka vai mo mona o kana ewa e ya no ke ia kane o Quincy Troupe ha'awi mai ka aloha no ke ia wahi ha'awi mai ka mea hulani ka mea makamai Aloha aloha mahalo no
mahalo no mahalo no
This is going to be in two parts. The first part I'll read by myself, and then the second part I'll read with Moussa, the great balafonists and choir player. My poems have holes sewn into them, and they run searching for light. At the end of tunnels, they become trains, or at the bottom of pits, they become blackness, or in the broad winging daylight, they are words that fly. And holes are these words, letters, or syllables with feathered wings that leave their marks on white pages, then fly off like footprints tracked in snow, and only God knows where they go. This poem has holes stitched into it, as our speech, which created poetry in the first place, lacerated, wounded words that strike out original meaning, bleeding into language, hemorrhaging out of thick or thin mouths, has empty spaces and silences sewn into it. My poems have holes sewn into them, and their voices are like different keyholes through which dumb men search for speech, blind men search for sight. Words like drills penetrating sleep, keys unlocking keyholes of language, words giving sight to blind people's eyes. My poems have holes sewn into them, and they are spaces between worlds, or worlds themselves, words falling off into one another, colliding like people gone mad. They space out, fall into bottomless pits, which are black holes of letters that become words and worlds, like silent space between chords of a piano. They fall back into themselves, into time, sleep, bottom out on the far side of consciousness, where words of all the world's poets go and whisper in absolute silence. This poem has deep holes stitched into it, and their meanings have the deadly suck of quicksand, the irreversible pull of earth to any skydiver, the tortured pus holes tracking arms of junkies. My poems have holes sewn into them, and they run searching for light at the end of tunnels, or at the bottom of yawning pits, or in the broad daylight, where the words, flapping like wings of birds, fly, whispering in absolute silence. We have come through doors, flaming ashes, the sad written legacy, smoldering bones heaped in pyres behind us, and yet around campfires, blues people singing softly still under blue-black moonlight. Ash doors and juju guitars conjuring ancestral flights, sweet memories of shaman juju men, cotton-eyed bands crooning softly, the guitar woman stroked in joins. Blues chanting, blues chanting, blues chanting mantras across the throbbing land, blues chanting mantras across the throbbing land, at the flight of sunlight, at the flight of sunlight. We used to walk streets of River Rhythm Town, my brother and me, counting cars that passed for nothing else better to do. Warm, cold days now, packed away in straw. And when at home on Delmar and Leonard Streets in St. Louis, Missouri, living over Joe's supermarket on weekends, would repeat from my window the same ritual all over again. This counting of passing cars. You took the Fords, I took the Chevrolets, Timmy, but always the pimps' Cadillacs would win. And from our window on Saturday night, we would watch the drunken fights across the street at Myers Tavern, where black people died with ridiculous ease from street surgeons' knives. Summers brought picnics and barbecues, baseball games, and hot, funky parties where we styled hard, laid off in our bad summer rags. And on warm, idle days on concrete playground courts, I would beat the hell out of you playing basketball until it got dark. In winter, we would bundle up tight in fast-shrinking clothes bought 3 years before when Daddy was making money playing baseball in Batista's Cuba, or bought when Mother was working downtown as a desk clerk at Sonnenfels. And on frozen winter nights, we would fight like two vicious alley cats over who pulled the cover off of who. Afterwards, we would sleep side by side in the dark in our own spilt blood. And if someone was ever foolish enough to mess with either one of us, they had to contend with the both of us, sure enough, righteously stomping 11,000 corns on their sorry asses. But time has worn away those days as water rubs smooth in time, a rough and jagged stone. You took the blues of those days, Timmy, filled with sun dews and blood, and turned them into rhythms. You played superbly on your talking drums before you heard the calling of your Lord, sanctified in the church, before you heard the calling of your Lord, sanctified in the church. I took that beautiful song you gave to me and turned it into poetry. This poem I give to you now with a brother's deep love. That day began with a shower of darkness calling, lightning rains home to stone language of thunderclaps, shattering the high blue elegance of space and time, where a broken down riderless horse with frayed wings rode a sheer bone sunbeam road down into the clouds. Spoke wheels of lightning, jagged, spun around the hours, and high up above those clouds, Duke Ellington wheeled his chariot of piano keys, his spirit now levitated from flesh and hovering over the music of Most High, spoke to the silence of a griot shaman man who knew the wisdom of God. At high noon, the sun cracked through the darkness like a rifle shot, grew a beard of clouds on his livid, bald face, hung down, noon sky high, pivotal time of the flood deep hours, as Duke was pivotal, being a 5 in the 9 numbers of numerology, as his music was one of the crossroads, a cosmic mirror of rhythmic gree-gree. So get on up and fly away, Duke. Bebop slant and fade on in, strut. Dance, swing, riff, and float and stroke those tickling gree-gree keys, those satin ladies taking the A train up to Harlem. Those gree-gree keys of Birmingham breakdown, sophisticated ladies, mood indigo, get on up and strut across, get on up and strut across, get on up and strut across, gree-gree. Raise on up, your band's waiting. Thunderclapping music, somersaulting clouds, racing across the deep blue wisdom of God. Listen, it is time for your intro, Duke, into that other place where the all-time great band is waiting for your intro, Duke. It is time for the sacred concert, Duke. It is time to make the music of God, Duke. We are listening for your intro, Duke. So let the sacred music begin. I thought it was the music when, in fact, it was a blender. Grinding down ice, making stuffings for drinks, but then you jump right on in on the downbeat, Leon Thomas, jump right on in, stroking rhythm, inside time, inside the bar. Then people flew deeper into themselves, became the very air, sweeping language to crescendo. Between feathers of touch, looping chord changes, your voice blew down, blues cries, field hollers, Mississippi River, flooded guttural, stitches through your space, images of collective recall. Leon, your voice strokes scatting octaves, the ice grinding down, still inside the blender, making stuffings for pina coladas. Then you scooped up our feelings again in the shovel of your John Henry doo-wops, jazz through Ellington, Count and Bird, yodeling Coltrane, blues cries, the history of Joe Williams sewn into the eyes of our eardrums, transmitted to the space between the eyes where memory lies. Your scatting licks brings us back dancing in our seats. You kick swelling language inside your lungs, voice stroking colors, painting the Creator's master plan as Pharaoh explodes inside the tone blender of his horn. The ice grinds down, the bar jumps out of itself, scooped up in the shovel of your John Henry doo-wops, blue as a Mississippi River chord, guttural phrasing, octaves kicking back black, scatting rhythms, loop busting your chops, Leon, feather stroking phrasing, Leon Thomas, yodeling octaves, chords sewn back black where they came from. cards sewn back black where they came from. Cards sewn back black where they came from. Yesterday in New York City, the grave diggers went on strike. And today, the undertakers went on strike because they said of the overwhelming number of corpses stretched out on tables in their overworked embalming rooms, unnecessarily, they said, because of wars and plenty of stupid killings in the streets, and et cetera, and et cetera, and et cetera. Sweating up the world, corpses, propped up straight in living room chairs, ensconced at dinner tables, jamming up cars on freeways, clogging up rivers, stopping up elevators, grinning toothless in dirty stairwells, taking up kids' space in front of television sets, standing in line for bank tellers, stinking up bedrooms, in the gutters, dead as rudders, corpses everywhere you turn. And the undertakers said that they were being overworked with all this goddamn killing going on. Said that they couldn't even enjoy all the money they was making like bandits. Said that this shit has got to stop. And today I just heard on the radio that the coffin makers are waiting in the wings for their chance to do the very same thing. And tomorrow, and if things keep going this way, I expect to hear of the corpses themselves boycotting death until things get better, or at least getting themselves together, in some sort of union, espousing self-determination for better funeral and burial conditions, or something extraordinarily heavy like that. Little change up. I used to be a basketball player. That was my medley. And I used to be a basketball. I don't like to talk too much between the poems. And so, I used to be a basketball player. I know I don't look like it, but I do. I was. And, our youngest son came over here to play about a couple of weeks ago in the tournament in Honolulu. He goes to the University of Portland, so he's 6'5". And he plays at the University of Portland. They got beat 3 times, so that was terrible. He was in a deep funk, He's still in a deep funk. But anyway, I wrote a poem, and it's been turned into a children's book, and it's called A Poem for Magic, and they changed the title, Take It to the Hoop, Magic Johnson. And it's for children, but I didn't write it for children. They made it into a children's book. So I'm going to read it to you. It's called A Poem for Magic. And this poem is dedicated to 3 people: for Irvin Magic Johnson, who is Magic, and then Donnell Reed, who was my good friend in St. Louis, and Richard Franklin, who was my good friend also, who are my good friends. They're both from St. Louis, and we used to play basketball together all the time. And Donnell became a banker, and Richard became an architect engineer, and I became a poet. Take it to the hoop, Magic Johnson. Take the ball dazzling down the lane. Herk and jerk and raise your 6'9" frame into air-sweating screams of your neon name. Magic Johnson, nickname Windex way back in high school, 'cause you wiped glass backboards so clean. Where you first juked and shook, wowed your way to glory. A new style fusion of shake and bake energy, using everything possible. You created your own space to fly through. Any moment now, we expect your wings to spread feathers for that spooky takeoff of yours. Then shake and glide and ride up in space till you hammer home a clotheslining deuce off glass. Now, come back down with a reverse hoodoo gem off the spin and stick it in sweet popping nets clean from 20 feet right side. Put the ball on the floor again, Magic. Slide the dribble behind your back. Ease it deftly between your bony, stark legs, head bobbing every which way. Up and down. You see everything on the court off the high yo-yo pattern. Stop and go dribble. You thread a needle rope pass. Sweet home to Kareem cutting through the lane. His skyhook pops the cars. Now lead the fast break. Hit worthy on the fly. Now blindside. A pinpoint. Behind the back pass for 2 more. Off the fake. Looking the other way. You raise off balance into electric space. Sweating chance of your name. Turn 180 degrees off the move. Your legs scissoring space like a swimmer's yo-yoing motion in deep water. Stretching out now toward free flight. You double pump through human trees, hang in place, slip the ball into your left hand, then deal it, then deal it, then deal it, then deal it like a Las Vegas car dealer off squared glass, then deal it, then deal it, then deal it like a Las Vegas car dealer off squared glass into nets, living up to your singular nickname. So bad, so bad, so bad, so bad, so bad, you cartwheel the crowd toward frenzy, wearing now your electric smile, neon as your name. In victory, we suddenly sense your glorious uplift, your urgent need to be champion. And so we cheer with you, rejoice with you for this quicksilver moment of fame. So put the ball on the floor again, Magic. Juke and dazzle, shake and bake down the lane. Take the sucker to the hoop, Magic Johnson. Recreate reverse hoodoo gems off the spin. Deal alley-oop, dunk-a-thon, magician passes now. Double pump, scissor, double pump, scissor, bamp through space, hang in place and put it all up in the sucker's face, Magic Johnson, and deal the round ball like the juju man that you am, like the shown up shaman man that you am, Magic, like the shown up spaceman you am. Now this one is for Michael Jordan, but just a little explanation about this. When Michael Jordan, this poem was written after his last game, his last game when he beat Utah. That perfect ending, and so I wrote this poem and I tried to figure out how to do this, and it was so fast the way he beat Utah, I was trying to think of a form to do that I could write it, and it couldn't be a haiku because that's too quick. Couldn't be a sestina because that's a little bit too long. And I wanted something that had repetition because Michael Jordan was always beating people all the time, over and over and over and over again. So I thought of the villanelle. The villanelle is a 19-line poem, French form, that you have to take 2 lines and you repeat it 4 times throughout the poem. And I was trying to get to that. So this poem is called 41 Seconds on a Sunday in June in Salt Lake City, Utah, from Michael Jordan. This is a villanelle. Rising up in time, Michael Jordan hangs like an icon. Suspended in space, cocks his right arm, fires a jump shot for 2. The title game on the line, his eyes to radar screen screwed like nails into the mask of his face, boring on the basket, glazed, focused, a thing of beauty, no shadow or trace, no hint of fear in this, his showplace, his ultimate place to shine. Rising up in time, Michael Jordan hangs like an icon. Suspended in space after his move from baseline to baseline, sideline to sideline. His cold face shining, wagging his tongue, he dribbles through chaos, snaking serpentine. His eyes to radar screens screwed like nails into the mask of his face. He boats a flash up the court, takes off, floats in for 2 more. In this race for glory, it is his time, what he was put on earth for. He can see the headline. Rising up in time, Michael Jordan hangs like an icon, suspended in space. Inside his imagination, he feels the moment he will embrace, knows his place is written here. Inside this quickening pace of nerves, he will define. His eyes to radar screen screwed like nails into the mask of his face. Inside this moment, he will rule on his own terms. Quick as a cat, he interfaces time, victory, and glory. As he crosses over his dribble, he is king of this shrine. Rising up in time, Michael Jordan hangs like an icon, suspended in space. His eyes to radar screens screwed like nails into the mask of his face. My wife and I live in a place called La Jolla. And the reason we live there is because when we moved to California from New York City, we asked, what city was the university in? They said La Jolla. I said, well, that's where we're going to move because we don't want to be on the freeway all day, riding on the freeway. And so when we got there, this is a short poem. We noticed that on everybody's lawns was this sign called Armed Response. So I said, what's that mean? So La Jolla is a beautiful place. Like Hilo is a really beautiful place. My wife and I have been commenting on that. It's a really beautiful place, and La Jolla is a beautiful place. It's a beautiful place, hilly, like same kind of feeling, dips, and where the eye locates on the brow of some precipice, a glass house that is an atrium, and wondrous beyond all comprehension, where the sky is a roof, the Pacific a glittering blue veranda, swell with surfers and salt waves terracing in, one foaming wave after another. Swimmers bobbing up there like red apples in a tub at a Halloween party just offshore. While up in verdant hills, golden with light and green, runners jog up and down streets as nervous people behind walls and signs reading Armed Response sit fingering triggers of shotguns, their eyes boring in tight as two just fired bullets. They didn't like that poem, They liked it up until the ending, And they said, well, Quincy, why did you have to write that poem, I said, I don't know, I want to read about 3 more, and then we'll take a break. I think that's what we're going to do. Catch the blues song of wind in your bleeding human hands. Wrap it around your strong, bony fingers. Then turn it into a soft-nosed pen and sit down and write the love poem of your life. I walk liquid footsteps of my words across Tongue Bridge to where you stand just now. Offer you these bittersweet syllables pregnant with history of what we have seen together, Margaret. Metaphors, as in the color of sea breezes and wind, rustling hairdos of trees, tossing and turning in the ebb and flow of meaning between us here. The rhythms of your seduction flowing into sound of your body breathing just outside now my ears, where your licking tongue, a breeze softly, blowing softly, teases, your voice a mere whisper, and your pouting lips shaping a kiss, succulent as a plum bursting. The other brandy sweet night I dreamed we was kissing so hard and good, you sucked my tongue right on out my trembling mouth. And I had to sew it back in, baby, in order to tell you about it. I read that poem in high school, and they said, he's naughty. I said, that's right. That's right. I want to read you about 3 more, and then I think that'll be it. I said that before, but I'm going to read you a new one. This is kind of new. It's in my new book. The bone under the skin is a gristle of wings, feathered for flight, music up in the tone, beneath syllables echoing light. Up in the steep night, transparent as an ethereal shimmering, as a shower of colors laced through the sight, is a necklace of white pearls strung around a black woman's neck. From where we stand with a flare in our hands, we see her at the edge of a looming vortex. As a fanfare blooms from somewhere, She starts to dance a fandango with herself, and everyone standing here looking is amazed. And the next one is a poem called Fast Lane. I don't know where this poem came from. It's in my new book also. Fast Lane for my good friend Victor Hernandez Cruz. Fast lane, the ball is up in the lights, and you are breathing hard there. And wherever the flight of the sphere takes your eyes in its arc, you find yourself there, chasing the music of the curve, up in the air, slick as an eagle or a red-tailed hawk. When it turns and dives, its wingtip become a blade, sharp as its beak, breaking the flesh of prey. And from here, you are there too, inside the bloodletting, the death of the prey, horrible, but pulsating as an image inside your imagination. And you are riding a wave of creation inside your mind, a current of light and air that takes you to a fertile place inside that imagination, deep down within, perhaps an imaginary circle where you now consider the path of the ball as it flies, arcing through the blue. It is a cutout object, an image, black as a period on a white page. Then you fast break your mental juices forward, your improvising twists and turns inside the possibility that you can do whatever this thing you thought you could do. And it, like you, are running backward, way up inside the music you're listening to now inside your head. You move the tempo forward because it is your own creation, way forward, past the dot up in the blue. That is black now, as any moment you considered murder as an answer, then shrug it off as one would a coat swarming with fleas and flies. Then you bevel yourself into a groove, but very much still on time. Inside this moment, you are creating for yourself now. You are present there, but here too, on this page, looking out at yourself, but that can get very boring. So you press pedal to the metal and shoot your mind out ahead, running fast as the image of that black bird with spinning legs in that old Roadrunner cartoons. Or like a space shot trying to connect earthlings with the moon, you try catching up with your dreams, fusing them together here with everything you are thinking now. But you are still by a beat behind time, though inside time too. And the language, like seasons, is always changing, is always out ahead of you. And you are what the music hears inside your DNA rhythms. Language created every day by you, by someone else, and played out here or anywhere else, for that matter, in an improvised way, too. You are the possibility of what you are listening to now. The music, your music, up in the rhythms, your music, the music, up in the rhythms, sucas, salsa, maracas, words of a poem, pulsating jazz notes toward the light. I say, words of a poem, pulsating jazz notes toward the light. And this last two, I grew up in the church, and I want to read this last two poems about, one is about the church. It's called Avalanche, the title poem of my book, Avalanche. And I could never write a poem about the church because I just couldn't. And I wanted to write a poem about the rhythms of the church and the African-American church and what came out of that. All these great musicians, all these great people came out of that. There's a certain kind of culture in the church. You know, I used to always go to church to see a black woman fall. you know, when they would just, I want to see her hit the floor, But I never saw a black woman hit the floor. Somebody would always be there to catch her. I didn't know how that was happening. So I used to go back and just always go to, but I never saw a black woman hit the floor. So that was kind of magic, Anyway, I wrote this poem called Avalanche, and it's about the experience of the church. Not Jesus, but it's about Jesus up in there too, but it's about the church and what it is about, called Avalanche. And I tried to think of a minister when I wrote this, African-American minister, Martin Luther King, those kinds. Within an avalanche of glory, hallelujah, sky breaks, spraying syllables on the run, spreading sheets, waving holy sounds, Solos sluicing African bound, transformed here in America from voodoo into hoodoo. Inside tonguing blues, snaking horns, where juju grounds down sacred. Up in cards, up in the gritty foo-foo, magical, where fleet rounds of cadences whirlpool, as in rivers, where memory spins down, foaming into dances like storms swallowed here in a burst of suns. Up in the yeasting blue voodoo, holding the secret clues mum inside the mystery unfolding. Up in the caking dish rag of daybreak, miracles shaking out earthquakes of light, like mojo hands luminous with spangling, and all the vamping blood songs of call and response. The vamping blood songs, call and response. As in the pulpit, when a preacher becomes his words, his rhythms, those of a sacred bluesman dead outside his door. His gospel intersecting with antiphonal guitars, a congregation of amens, as in the slurred riffs, blues strings run back, echoing themselves, answering the call, the voice cracked open like an egg, the yoke running out, the lungs imitating collapsed drums. And he is the rainbow and confluence of sacred tongues, the griot, the devotion of rivers, all up in his hands, all up in his fingers, his call both invocation and quaking sermon, running true and holy as drumming cadences brewed in black church choirs, glory, hallelujah vows, spreading from their mouths like Wolfman's mojo, all up in Mahalia Jackson's lungs, howling vows, rolled off hoodoo consonants brewing, magic, all up in the preacher's run of muddy water, strung all up in the farm drenched with Coltrane, riffing all up in miles of Lightning Hopkins mojo songs, blues yeasting lungs of bird, when music is raised up as prayer and lives healing as June's sun, quoted in the black baby songs, sewn deep in their lungs as power and blueprinted here in breath of rappers. And this is a poem in praise of continuity. It's a poem about blood coursing through tongues. It's a praise song for drowned voices lost in middle passage. It's a praise song for slashed drums of Obatala. It's a construct of Orikis linking antiphonal bridges. It's a praise song tonguing deep mojo secrets. Dambala in praise of the great God's blessings. Oshun in praise of healing songs sewn into tongues, inflating sweet lungs into a cacophony of singing. Praise songs tonguing deep mojo secrets. And this poem is about music, when music is what it believes it is, holy, when voices harmonize, somersaulting colors in flight, and glory is the miracle poetry sings to in that great getting up morning, within the vortex of wonder, confluencing rivers, light, glory in the rainbows arching like eyebrows across suns, glory in the moonlight staring from a one-eyed cat's head, and I want to be glory and flow in that light, want to be Coltrane solos living in me, want to become wonder birds in flight of my lines, want the glory of song healing in me as sunlight, want it tongue through leaves, metaphor and trees, transform where they see and stand up here as people in this soil, everything rooted here in blood of mother's flesh. And is the poetry of God and deep forest time singing and listening, and the music there is green, as it also is purple, as it also is orange, brown, and mind-blowing electric banana, as it is red cinnamon, and also again green, sound ground up against lavender, beneath sunsets fusing crisp blue light, and night here stitched with fireflies flicking, gold up against bold midnight, and once again, yes, green, as shimmering Caribbean palm fronds are green in the center of apocalyptic chaos. And my poem here is reaching for that greenness, is reaching for holy luminosity, shimmering in gold fleck light, where the mojo hand is seaming through high blue mornings, waving like a sequin glove up in the glory of hallelujahs, calling through the inner tube lips of the great God singing, up in the blues root doctors, jacklegging sermons, up in the condolences, mourning death, up in the sunburst of God's glory. I want this poem to kneel down itself before healing, want to be magic there beneath the crucifixion of light, want to be praise song, juju rooted, want to be mojo hand raised up to powers of flight, want to be tongue of gritty foo-foo feeding, want to be a congregation slurring amen riffs running back through me to you, the voice raised up here, guitar, blues licks, holy, want to be glory, hallelujah, call and response, glory, want to be yam song rooted in the bloody river, holy, want to be ground earth of resurrection in you, in me, the bridge tongue of healing is the drum of this song, and it is reaching out to you to cross over to the sun, is reaching out to touch your heartbeat there, to become one with in the glory, to feel the healing touch, to become one with the glory. This poem waits for you to cross over the heartbeat touch of your healing hands, touching hearts. This poem waits for you to cross over love. This poem waits for you to cross over love. This poem waits for you to cross over love. This poem waits for you to cross over to love, to love. Thank you. We come from earth. Mother, give us your blood. Give us your deep, strong love to become. Seed of earth spirit in rock and stone and flesh. Seed of water spirit swelling below flights of birds. Poetry of flight, birthing motion. We are here in a strength of cyclic movements, tumbling and roaring in a family of plane curves. Locus of points that move the ratio, distance of fixed point to distance of fixed line. Energy evoking a summoning that is continual. Infinite plane curve formed in the deep soft core of the earth, of the water spirit wound of the axis, the intersecting cone. Locus of points summoning flight of a sunbird between distances. We are here fixing constants of wind, storm, rain, air, water, sun, earth. Spirit birth, breaking apart in fissures, earthquakes, volcanoes, points of departure, lava flowing found in beginnings that are riven. Germinating embryos torn apart from African shades of ancestors, flung as rainbowing petals of flowers into confluencing bloodstreams of harvesting eye winds. And they are carried along the Atlantic by storms. Poetry of birth in motion. Labyrinths lined with steel. And life is molten rock spilling out from lips of volcanoes. Fissures giving birth to red, orange finger rivers, snaking flames that destroyed to give birth within wounds of hard black rock. Seed of earth spirit. Bright birds of love in flight. History raising up flame prayers to sun gods, offering up sacrifices of trees, animals, reptiles, insects, villages, whole cultures. Seeds of water spirits, finger birds of flames in flight, burning from guitar strings of Jimi Hendrix. Climbing up from saxophone bell of Anadaru, balafons. Mystical birds flying high within the water spirit night. And in hot pitch dark, a black cat carrying two glowing suns in the eclipse of his head carries two fireflies climbing eyes in the cavern of night. And the fireball that is swallowed by the Pacific Ocean, each crumbling dusk, and who burns now deep within earth, spirit water. Leaps now from tips of devastated cities, Leaps now from delicate Chinese finger paintings. Leaps now from spitting barrels of coughing volcanoes. Leaps now into the air as a dazzling gold coin settles in the fingers of a tree like a bright large orange and burns like a one-eyed black cat eclipsed, like a one-eyed black cat eclipsed in hot pitch dark, like a firefly climbing in intervals. Pulsates the night, and it's poetry of birth in motion. I tell you, it is syllables of love, birds in flight. We are seeing, they are seeds of earth and water spirits. Seeds of earth, water spirit. Up from New Orleans, on riverboats from the Gulf of Mexico, memory carries sweet legacy of niggerland speech. Brown tongue bluesing muddy water. Underbottom spirits crawling, nightmares of shipwrecked bones. Bones gone home to stone, to stone. Bones gone home to stone, to stone. River bottom, underbelly spirits, bones gone home to stone. I say, bones gone home to stone. I say, skulls. I say skulls along the river. And the faces of these faceless bones unknown, screaming arpeggios of stitched memory in cold light. I'm talking about cadences of blues shrinking sun sprays, shrieking with every turning of black boned arm clocks. And it is the collected face of memory that wears the metaphor of collected dust, the collective mathematics of lamenting calibrations, hieroglyphics cracking and peeling and curling in stones, dust storms swirling around edges, bones white as chocolate teeth in memory cloning. The images come locked in whatever time gives them. Death there forever, forever locked in time. Death there forever, and forever locked in time. And inside time, we suffer because we must. There is no other way to find beauty. There is no other way to find love. We suffer because we must. There is no other way home to find the memory. And all the skeletons that have passed my cracking eyeballs, seeking true cadence within the lamenting calibrations of music, history, rattling dice bones, on their worn out knees, the already dead scraping earth breath for an even deeper death. The ultimate transmigrating, transmuting. And oh, you midnight men of peppermint moons, rooster claw soliloquies raking at vision's corner, heroes emerging from sand-blasted history books. Grant me leather flesh of your weather-worn wisdom, oh blood-drenched grave diggers. Anthrocytic soothsayers. Oh mellow prophets of crushed grapes and stomped berries. Grant me holy syllables of your blues-laced tongues, perfect eardrums. I say, grant me sacred light of your blues doo-wopping Mac men. Grant me holy flight of your eagle-winged life. Grant me the tongue of your blues perfect eardrums. Grant me holy flight of your eagle-winged life. Oh, grant me the tongue living of your blues, of your blues, of your blues perfect, of your blues perfect eardrum. between the sweetness of beginnings, between the sweetness of beginnings, as in a rush of passion when two lovers exchange tongues in a greeting of new language. Inside the furnace of their mouths, between lips, after the heat of their desires have first touched, and the creaking slowdown of endings, as when brakes are applied to worn down race cars at the end of the 500-mile Indianapolis speed chase. There are moments when time moves as an oscillator between parameters, between fields of light and darkness, when the pendulum sometimes is a glittering sharp blade swinging back and forth under some leering street light, or a huge wrecking ball smashing the chest of an old building. On the other hand, it could be what ears know when they hear seconds tick-tocking. That tempo is a locator of movement, as when words arc themselves across time and space to describe curved backs of sweet women straddling the flow of a lover's deep stroking when love comes down, in the secret soft places of an all-embracing night, where the music of the moment creates rhythms washing wave after wave over fused flesh, wet and slippery as eels, swimming downstream in the ebb and flow of currents. Like the soloing of a bright bird called Miles Dewey Davis III, expression comes together to soar inside interlocking cultures, as fusion explodes xenophobia into cross-fertilizations, as when words slip slyly into composition of poetry as jazz notes become elements of surprise here in their dancing, as when feet tap music across dance floors in a response to syncopation, answering the call of antiphonal cadences, as in the way soukha singers slide their voices into rapture, into the shifting music by way of backdoor vibrations, as if inside a seance-like trance, inside a high state of improvisation. The body voice lifting itself up to curl into worship as heartbeat, as the song of ancestors echoing the drum roll of the call, voices of ancestors echoing inside drum rolls of the call, inside a hemorrhaging of 911 wails of isolation, inside a hemorrhaging of 911 wails of isolation. We enter the language of poetry in the same way we enter music. Through rhythms of imagination, we are pulled toward doors, to walk through in cadence, in time with something we know or hear clearly and recognize as something familiar or unfamiliar, but compelling anyway. The need to go forward and give ourselves over to the mystery of communication there. Choices, sounds tumbling over each other pull our ears into the art of listening and knowing what we hear is meaning. Anchored to some geographic or linguistic soil, we move toward sound sculpture. Slide down slopes of syllables, words flying away like notes or cards in a final cadenza, dancing into rapture. And it is here that we lift up colors and objects we shape with our tongues inside the caves of our spirits. Inside this oobop-she-bop, oobop-she moment of wow-wow rhythm and blues and jazz, syllables broken off and chewed up in accents, in a melange of jambalaya tongues circling out to hoodoo the language, recreating itself daily as it sashays down American highways, imitating the hum of digi-digi-digi, digi-digi-digi, digi-why-doos, imitating the hum of digi-digi-digi, digi-digi-digi, digi-why-doos, the circular breathing of John Coltrane, circular breathing of John Coltrane. The possibility of beauty as an extension of the spirit of language, the ebb and flow connected to antiphony as a doorway to magic, woven throughout textures of what we bring to the table of communication. As voices interlock within cultures of syncopated hip to pelvic movement. Recognize rapture far deeper than divinity of stone feet anchored to floors. And see in the glory of a river of butterflies that can summon up mystery, a holiness more profound than the simple acquisition of money. And see an invocation of healing being conjured up there. A dust song of spring winds softer than the balm of a lover's sweet tongue. Thick and marmaladed, it swells its deepening language of juju, probing ecstasy, where we enter the rapture as magicians. Ears picking up faint calls of belaphons, floating mysterious as a cloud of white broken wing feathers over a long highway full of car wrecks. That is a metaphor for history. Wrecked cars, metaphors for history. Out here, where the sky grows wings, the land is broad beneath it. And everywhere I go, space holds me within. Space holds me within. Space holds me within. I stretch my lips 3,000 miles across telephone wires, sucking silence of wings beating down breath. Space, a hemorrhaging of distance. And you are there singing as dust tones in the apple, rainbow feathers sleeping there as loveliness, peace. And we have come to this magic apart from each other, ourselves alone with distance. Serene inside this breathing music, muted trumpet voice kissing fabled dust song, skin of scarred history, long distance embraces in dreams, memory easing out of breath, rhythms gliding in and out, over and under, like birds banking feathered wing prints, wheeling down sunset skies. And now your love call coming through clear. The night wind sucking deep music, mystery through space. Black distance collapsing in on itself. Screaming. So beautiful, the grip of your sonorous name. Screaming, soothing, the tongue touch of your sonorous name. Imagine a high-pitched voice shouting in the middle of a Malian plain. Around the village of Dijoliba, a plain dotted with fruit trees, fine grains of hot sand, pebbles of white quartz. Now imagine that voice alone there shouting to beat the band. In the middle of scorched summer days, see a white-black ghost of a child shouting monkeys away from banana and fruit trees. People thinking him crazy until all the monkeys leave lickety-split, dropping pee. This black-white African boy who would have been sacrificed because of fear and his royal bloodline stretching back like the Niger River. Because of being an African ghost child who shouted monkeys down out of banana fruit trees. This eerie ghost boy with a royal bloodline going back to Sundiata Keita, founder of the Mandinka people. Now imagine that boy as a shouting spirit whose ghost face floated through the darkness like his voice, to mingle with ancestral ghosts up in baobab trees, balaphons trembling, lyrical as leaves. up in trees stirred by ghost voices and breezes. Now imagine an African ghost boy whose face floats through the darkness like his voice, who tried to touch God with his voice in a village that is afraid of his strange power. His difference, a child who always tried to coexist with God in harmony, the voice growing more plaintive, clear, pure as it grew. As the years blew by like Sahelian harmattans in the north of Mali, the voice grew translucent as a scrim, through which an ancestral memory now flowed, whole and beckoned, powerful as the history of heat, the shouts those monkeys heard, the voice now dreaming of water surging as currents of a wide, powerful river around Mopti, where the voice now lived with a guitar at the Bamako and the rail band in Paris, near a river that has carried histories up and down its wet black underboats, from Timbuktu down to Mopti, the Niger Bani flowing wide there as dreams of cool drinks of waters up in the desert north, where the dragon tongue heat is regular and fierce. Now imagine that voice again as Salif Keita's voice, a voice always in prayer, a voice that passes through your senses and goes straight to the heart, as that shout once went straight to the hearts of monkeys. It now enters the spirit as a gift, as a breath of cleansing air, light, as a song shaped by rolling syllables that ring transcendent, as bells, lyrical as chorus, bellopons. It is swelling, it is golden. It wraps itself around your spirit as with a shower raining down vowels and consonants. The voice as its own instrument of an antelope is magic. The voice dances through air as prayer, as spirit riding the wind as mystery. The gong of the voice, inside rope-a-dope language, inside song, like a po-inch worm hitching a ride, burring along. From dusk to dawn, it is now galloping inside a zebra. The voice there, almost religious, is talking to you now in prayer. Jambalaya, fandango soliloquies from Mali, is a gong's voice singing, ripping through Malian air by the juju man, Keita, whose ghost face floats through the darkness like a song. Here, a voice there with wings beating up inside winds, beautiful as prayer. The spirit dancing down roads is alone now with secrets of magic. Mystery is a shaman man shouting to beat the band, singing from his knees now, his white-black ghost face floating through the darkness like his song is high-pitched, powerful as the history of heat. We must pass through the song. Its mystery and its magic and its heat is the history of us all now. And it sings jambalaya, and it sings jambalaya, 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 fandango prayers. The juju ghost man from Mali, his cadence and language, the rope-a-dope lope of an antelope. In the air it shouts soliloquies once heard by monkeys, is a voice always in prayer, powerful and pure as Harmattan sandstorms. It always goes straight to the heart, is a winged voice free as syllables of the wind. It always goes straight to the heart. Imagine Salif Keita, a white-black ghost man whose face floats through the darkness like his song. His voice always arrowing straight to the heart. His winged voice always a song, always a prayer. Imagine Salif Keita. Imagine a winged voice, golden and always in prayer. Imagine Salif Keita, always arrowing with his voice toward the heart, always arrowing with his voice to enter the heart. across, beyond, moving toward the soon other coast, transcending a change of appearance, as when transfigurating a moment that is circular. As the O of a dead man's mouth is a circle, sometimes after his last deep breath has been sucked in, becomes the shape of a spinning snake chasing or swallowing its own tail, can be a sign, an omen perhaps, of what has been forgotten. Erased from the circular thought waves, history provides the highway of metaphors. Bombs and bullets and flag waving, guiding the way into madness, drunk on power. The hypocrisy of slaughter, bombastic with language rooted in opposing religious fervors. Greed, the sad war dead made over into blood-dripping saints, converted to propaganda, iconography. Now we find ourselves once again here, as yesterday. Our speech, a copy of a copy of a copy. Our history is located in roots, clues underground, bleached bones, skulls without vanity marking the spots where ancestral voices once swelled and grew, colorful as bright flowers, were there, rhythmic, beautiful, full of surprises, bold with new twists inside language grown flesh, fresh in an instant, then suddenly gone, erased in a blink, as history quickly removes those who lose wars of iconography. Even as music of their speech echo choices they made when they stood visible, unbroken, inside their own loved skins. Their heartbeats thumping drum beats in time with their spirits. Their voices, musical instruments, they sang and shaped a language they danced to then. Even now, you still hear echoes of its rhythm on your own tongue here. Now the faces of those ghosts are invisible as death coming in the dark. After midnight, when most eyes shut down, close themselves off to light, live only inside shifting dreams. And it is a roundabout way that we have brought ourselves here, shrouded in this moment of looping shadows, whispering in this graveyard of rundown tombstones, whispering to the memory of what could have been, like autumn, brown leaves scattered across asphalt or dirt or stone. After the chill of coming winter's tongue sentenced them here to the fate of dried corpses riding on a battlefield. The eyes of owls, the eyes of owls, their whooping language of mystery, our only companions here as time tick-tocks, tick-tocks, as time tick-tocks, tick-tocks down. Our eyes rotate upward toward where we think heaven is, as if looking for a sign, as if hoping for a Savior. said if you wanted to ask some questions, and if I didn't answer the questions, I was going to have to swim back to San Diego. No. So if you got any questions, do you want to ask some questions? I'll try to answer them. Yeah. Oh, it took 7 drafts. Took 7 drafts. As a matter of fact, I'm doing the touch-up on it over here now. I'm finished with it, and I'm 3/4 of the way through the touch-up, which is the last go-around, and then it was very difficult. What you have to do in a screenplay, which you have to learn a new form. And you have to learn a new form. It's like anything. It's like you have to learn a new form. You have to learn how screenplays work, and you have to learn, like poetry is different from novels, and poetry is different from songs, writing songs, and films are different from plays, and so a sestina is different from a villanelle. So I had to learn over time how to construct this monster, but it was fun to do because of the fact Miles Davis was a great friend of mine, and he was my first hero. When I was growing up, when I was 15, he changed my life when I was 15 living in St. Louis, and I told him that I owed him that. He died in 1991, and I owed him the honor. I mean, for me, it was an honor and a privilege to work with him, but to do, if it was possible, that I would control the film on him. And I told him that. And the book, 2 books we did, the autobiography, I felt that the autobiography, to render a man of his stature, who is probably one of the great artists in the century, on the level with Picasso and those people, to render his life in a 2-hour film was impossible. So I suggested that they do, and they asked me to write the screenplay. And I said, if you want me to do 2 hours, I'm not going to do it. If you're going to do 6 hours, I'll do it. It should have been a mini-series, and they didn't want to do that. And so I said, I'll just be the consultant. So I was the consultant on that first one, but it never came about because nobody could get his life into 2 hours. They just couldn't do it, and I knew they couldn't do it. But on this one, it is not his entire life story. It's about a friendship between two black men, which has never been done, really, in movies.